Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. This is your host, the Barkeep, bringing you podcast 29 here at the Tavern, presented by HeroTaku.com. First, I want to go ahead and mention to everybody that this is going to be a solo review. Unfortunately, Raptor is not here with me tonight, and that is simply because he has been 100% absorbed into Pokemon X. But as the weeks go by, I'm sure he will unabsorb himself for whatever the process is, and he will return and we will do more videos here together. But to your chagrin, it is just me tonight, and I guess we all have to deal with that. Nothing too heavy I want to go ahead and discuss tonight. What I'd like to go ahead and talk about is the Dark Rangers. Now, the Dark Rangers are from a Season 2 episode, Green No More, where Lord Zed attempts to suck the rest of Tommy's powers into what he calls the Green Crystal, and use those powers to power his own Ranger team, the Dark Rangers. And the thing is that it's a great premise, it's a good idea, for Lord Zed to create his own team of evil Rangers. But the way it was executed in Power Rangers is just so problematic. There were so many issues with it that I just want to discuss the idea of Lord Zed creating this evil Ranger team, what we got, and really what they should have done. Now, this will not be a commentary in general about evil Rangers, but specifically just the Dark Rangers. And I will also point out I'm only going to be limiting my discussion to what we see in Green No More. I know the comics came out with another team of Dark Rangers, which apparently ties into Forever Red and how Jason got his powers back. But I will make this statement if I haven't made it already. I only count what happened in the television shows and the Turbo movie as canonical. So things like Scorpion Reign, the comics, the first movie, I don't consider any of those as reliable sources. Not even Sentai, I would say, is a reliable source because we're just talking about Power Rangers continuity. So that being said, let's just talk about the Dark Rangers from Green No More. Now, the biggest thing that everybody keeps talking about the Dark Rangers is their costumes. And of course, throughout this video, you'll see a picture of them in their human forms and in their costumes. Now, the thing is that they do look absolutely ridiculous. It looks stupid. They look like bootleg Power Rangers that you find at the State Fair. In fact, I think I had a bootleg Dark Green Ranger at some point. You just look at these things. They are obviously Z-Putty costumes, recolored, and they just look horrible. The masks don't fit right. The material looks horrible. The thing is that what we are dealing with nowadays is the definition of what is a Ranger exactly. People are still debating whether the Phantom Ranger is a Ranger, whether the Magna Defender is a Ranger or not. Because there's this idea that you have to fit into a certain color. You have to have a helmet. You have to have a morpher. You have to have Ranger in your name and all that. And I'll say this, the Magna Defender is more of a Power Ranger than the Dark Rangers because these guys don't follow form at all. They don't have helmets. I doubt that's even spandex that we're looking at right there. I don't even know what material exactly that's supposed to go ahead and be. But again, this is just the most ridiculous thing that we've ever seen. And the thing about it is, and this brings me to kind of like a bigger question right here, is that we know that the second season they were using Die Ranger footage for the monsters and the Zords and all that. Well, it stands to reason that at some point down the line, whether that be at the end of the first season, beginning of the second season, whatever, that Saban would have had access to the Die Ranger costumes. So why not actually use the Die Ranger costumes as the Dark Rangers? First of all, we're talking about a brief appearance, because, and I'm going to get into this later here in the video, the biggest problem with the Dark Ranger subplot, and that's what it is, it's a subplot, is that the whole episode is about Tommy, it's about the green crystal, it's about him losing his powers. That's what the whole episode, the two-parter, is about. It's not really about the Dark Rangers. They're just a minor obstacle that doesn't really pay off. It doesn't become an obstacle at all. So basically, they designed these costumes on a shoestring budget, apparently, introduced them for, I think it was half an episode is really what they were in, maybe less than that, and they don't fight and do anything. Now, apparently, there was supposed to be a fight scene between the Rangers and the Dark Rangers, but that was cut out because when they, did the test shoot or whatever, the costumes for the Dark Rangers weren't holding up. Like, they were ripping, they were having problems and stuff like that. That should have been your first sign, other than the overall design, that something was wrong. That you should have completely scrapped the idea of the Dark Rangers, or at least used the Die Ranger costumes. And, I wonder why they didn't do that. The biggest thing I have with Power Rangers is I'm not finding explanations for things, for reasons why certain choices were made. And I've yet to this day, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I have not seen anything in regards as to why they made the Dark Ranger suits the way they were. Was it really a budget thing? Because, I can imagine that completely designing and fabricating new Power Ranger costumes is going to be a challenge for anybody. And I'm sure it's the biggest challenge for the Sentai art designers over in Japan. I guarantee that's one of the biggest issues that in designing the Zords. Trust me, story comes easy, once you've designed everything, or vice versa. But even so, why go into the effort of doing this when they're going to look this ridiculous? And again, that's not even going to matter to the plot. I mean, the whole thing is, and I'll get into the story, but I really want to talk about these costumes. Why didn't they use the Die Ranger costumes? Why were they not used? The Die Ranger costumes are awesome. They are cool. The way that they are designed as well does indicate that they could be evil. I mean, just look at it. They got the evil eyes and the very fierce ferocity of it, basically. I mean, were they concerned that the Green Ranger and the Black Ranger wouldn't match? I mean, look at the Thunder Zords. It doesn't really match there, when you really look at it. Or did they think that, they resembled too much of the Zords and that kids would get confused or whatever? I don't know. I'd really like an answer on that, because if my choice as a producer was create new costumes from the Z putty costumes and look like this, or get those Die Ranger costumes that we might have in storage or we can get Toei to ship to us, I would definitely go with the Die Ranger suits. So again, I don't get that. That's like the worst thing about them. Let's also get into the characters of the Dark Rangers, which is a short discussion because there isn't any. I mean, their introduction is pretty cool in the episode. Basically, you find Bulk and Skull are running from something or somebody, and it turns out to be these Dark Rangers. And they are just like real punks. They are more bullies than Bulk and Skull are. I mean, they are those kinds of the rough guys. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to properly describe it. I mean, Linkar probably has it pegged when he says 5 assholes and all that. So, or 5 assholes with attitude, I guess. There is no personality to them. We don't learn anything about them other than they're like lonely, I guess. It's the power of friendship is why they're no longer evil. Because that's the thing, is like they're one-dimensional characters. I mean, you talk about like characters that we see later on in the series that are flat, are boring and all that. At least they made attempts to do something with those characters. The thing about the Dark Rangers is they didn't attempt to do anything with these characters. They didn't attempt to tell any type of story. They didn't try to parallel the Rangers or anything like that. And it makes me wonder why they were even introduced in the first place. Again, the story in Green No More is that Lord Zed is draining Tommy's powers into the green crystal, in which he gives the powers to the Dark Rangers, so that he can have his own team of Rangers to defeat the Power Rangers. So basically, it's killing two birds with one stone, and that's a great idea. That's basically what Astronema did in Power Rangers in Space with the Psycho Rangers, create an evil team of Rangers to defeat the Power Rangers, but draw on Dark Spectre's power so that you can eventually destroy and overthrow him. So again, great idea, but you would think Lord Zed would pull that off better than the Purple Dominatrix from Space. Just saying, I think Zed's a better villain, and I think he's smarter than that. So why wasn't the story just about the Green Ranger losing his powers if they weren't going to do anything with the Dark Rangers? I mean, maybe there was something else that was supposed to be filmed. Maybe there was something else that was supposed to be done, and eventually it didn't come to fruition or whatever. But again, if you just take the Dark Rangers out of the equation, it's pretty much the same story. Nothing's really changed. And the most damning thing of all is they don't even give them names. Now, granted, the A Squad doesn't have any names. You have the fandom and all that, but that really wasn't the point. But here you have people with no names. They're really just cardboard cutouts, and once they morph, they look like cardboard cutouts. They have no redeeming qualities. And the more interesting thing is they are pretty much... I think the idea was they were supposed to be dark reflections of our own characters. Because if you look at them, what's interesting is like... Okay, so the Dark Black Ranger, which is... I don't know. It's like Mega Megazord or something. It's like, it doesn't sound right. Dark Black Ranger. All right. His name is Zane, and he's African-American, just like Zach. And then you look at the Blue Ranger, whose name escapes me at the moment. I should have looked at their names. But he is like Billy. He's a nerd. I think the Yellow Ranger, whose name I believe is Tina. I think she's Asian, like Trini. I'm not exactly sure and all that. So, I wonder if it was supposed to be like, this is, the dark mirror of the Rangers. This is what Trini would be like if she was evil. This is what Zach would look like if he was evil and all that. But we don't get anything. Yeah, it's great to leave it up to our imaginations, but, it's really bad when you have a concept, but it doesn't come through, it doesn't show. I could probably see what they're doing, again, with Black Ranger Black, and here's his mirror and all that, and I don't know, it's just very, very, very disappointing, very strange that they went ahead and did this. And ultimately, where do the Dark Rangers fall into the history of Power Rangers? When people think of evil Rangers, for a long time, it was the Psycho Rangers. And then after that, it was the A Squad. And I think it's still more the Psycho Rangers. I would say the Psycho Rangers were probably the biggest threat as far as an evil Ranger team. Now, we've had evil Rangers, throughout Power Rangers history. The Mutant Rangers, which are personally my favorite. I just love that episode. You got the Mutant Rangers. You have the Shadow Rangers from Turbo. The Shadow Rangers from Wild Force. Almost every season has either an evil Ranger team or clones of the Rangers. And, depending on what the footage is going to go ahead and utilize, maybe in Super Mega Force we'll have the Rangers fighting against, the past Ranger teams in the Phantom Key form, or Key clones, I believe is how it is in Sentai. But the evil Ranger concept, of course, started with Tommy. Well, no, actually, pardon me, let me go back. It started with the Mirror Master, played by Bryan Cranston, who made the copies of the Rangers, and then it was Tommy the Evil Green Ranger. Then it was the Mutant Rangers. So within the first season, we had 3 instances of, 2 Evil Ranger teams, and then an Evil Ranger. And then come the second season, you would think that they would up the ante with the Dark Rangers. The Dark Rangers could have been a great threat to the Rangers. I said this with Raptor in one of our previous reviews and all that, is I want to see a Sentai or Power Ranger series where they fight another team of evil Rangers. Would have not been more interesting if the second season of Power Rangers was about Lord Zed and his evil team of Rangers. That Zed was a dark version of Zordon, and thus he had his own team. Zordon found the power coins, and Zed found another power source, the Chi balls, or whatever they're called in Die Ranger, and they have their own evil Ranger teams. And maybe, they could have still used the Zoo 2 footage with the Megazord, and then the Thunder Megazord and the regular Megazord could battle. I mean, I know I'm trying to rewrite the second season, but it almost seems to me that the Dark Rangers should have been a bigger part. That should have been something that would be more interesting. I mean, again, they are a footnote in Power Rangers history. Nobody remembers the characters. People barely remember the Dark Rangers as is. I mean, if you talk to a casual Power Ranger fan and say, hey, do you remember when the Rangers battled the Dark Rangers? They're like, who the hell are the Dark Rangers? Nobody knows. And again, it'd been a great plot point if, they had used Tommy's powers and they were gone. They had to create the White Ranger powers, to battle. And I don't know. I mean, it's just all speculation at my point, but I think that was a great missed opportunity here. And Lucara said, you could have done this as a 3-parter or more or something like that. I would argue this could have been the entire premise of the season. That it would have given more interesting stories. I mean, I like the second season up until Rocky, Am, and Aisa show up, and then, we kind of get out of things and all that. Because I still adore the original 6 Rangers. I thought the time, when Jason, Zach, and Trini were there was much better because I just like those characters more. And actually, even, Season 2 was kind of a mixed bag for me, because I love the Zords, I love the original characters, I love Lord Zed, but some of the things they didn't like. But that's going on to a tangent and all that. But again, if the entire season could be about the Dark Rangers, wouldn't that just be awesome? And, I wonder why this concept hasn't come back in other forms. Again, we have the Evil Ranger team and all that, but, why didn't Zed try this again? Why didn't he try this again in the 3rd season? Why didn't he try this with Zeo and all that? Hey, how great would Turbo would have been if Zed and Rita had promised to say, hey, we're back, and they actually followed up on it and like, okay, Dark Rangers, Evil Rangers. Who knows? There could be any number of possibilities. But, overall, again, with the Dark Rangers, here's going to be my final thoughts about that. The Dark Rangers, great idea, bad execution, and I don't know why it was bad. I mean, it's a great idea. But again, why was this a subplot? Why was this such a minor thing? Was this something, again, that they planned and they just swept under the rug like, okay, this is great, but we can't do this? And was it the fact that the suits were in bad, were not good enough to fight that they had to drop that? Maybe there was more to this. Maybe they were... Here's just speculation on my part. What if it was maybe a 3-parter or there was more to the script than what was originally there? And that they say, hey, we're going to have the Dark Rangers, they're going to fight, there's going to be this debate, Jason's going to talk to, I think Justin is the Red Ranger's name, and just say, talk him out of it like he did Tommy, a mirror of what he had to do, in his battle with Tommy in Season 1 and Breaking the Spell, I believe. Yeah, Greenfield Part 5, Breaking the Spell. What if it's a parallel to that, but this time on a Ranger scale? And, maybe the other Rangers, can see themselves in these other Rangers and say, hey, that could be me if I was filled with hate and all this stuff. It could have been a great character piece, I think, for our guys. But then for the Dark Rangers, it could have been, them learning an actual lesson because they, have to fight against the Rangers one-on-one. And of course, in great Power Ranger fashion, they carry on giant conversations while fighting and all this other kind of stuff. But again, maybe there was a lot more to it along those lines, but because the suits didn't work, that they had limited use for them, that they couldn't do all that. And that's what we ended up with, is that, okay, the suits don't work, we got to cut this out, we got to cut that out. I just I don't get it. I'd like to know what had happened with this writing crew. And if anybody knows any of the writers or producers or anything, hey, guys, let me know over here at the tavern. I would really like an answer to this. And again, why didn't they use the Die Ranger suits? I mean, that seems like the most obvious thing you can do, and you can sell toys in that, because they did not make a single Dark Ranger toy. And of course, anybody that claims that Power Rangers is just meant to sell toys, yeah, I take you to the Dark Rangers, because you do not introduce 5 new characters in colorful outfits and not make toys of them. Granted, that was ridiculous and all that, but yeah, they were not introduced to make toys. The Dark Rangers were introduced for a plot point, for a story, not for toys. So I rest my case on that. But that's all I really have to go ahead and say. I wish I had kind of more to say, and I really wish Raptor was here to have some sort of debate with me, I guess, on Evil Rangers. But again, I just specifically want to focus on the Dark Rangers and what they contributed, which was nothing. Maybe they paved the way for the Psycho Rangers down the line. Yes, I would to believe that it would be that the Dark Rangers influenced Mega Ranger, which I doubt is the case, but you never know with these things and what Toei is watching or understanding. But ultimately, my point is, they could have done so much better, and I want to know why they half-assed it. That's all I want to go ahead and know, and that's all I have to go ahead and say. So I want to thank you guys for just putting up with me tonight. If you have any thoughts about the Dark Rangers, let me know in the comments. Tell me what you think. Are they cool? Are they awesome? Would it be better if they never existed? And again, is there some information out there that better explains this that I've never heard of? Let me know. But in either case, hey, you guys have yourselves a good evening. Thanks for listening, and the tavern is now closed.